Got a doll baby, I love her so.
Hey everyone, I'm Brady. Welcome back for another Factory of Fun tutorial. Today we're going to make a Fallout inspired phone dock. So I recently got a new desk, and as part of organizing the workspace, I needed a phone docking station. So I promptly went out on Google and did some searching to see if I could find anything that was Fallout or Vault-Tec inspired. And I came across this awesome design by Walter B. over on Thingiverse. Immediately I was pumped just looking at this because I could tell how much fun it was going to be to paint it. Printed it out, painted it, and here's what it came out looking like. So I put my phone in it, looked great. Of course, then I put the charge cord in and tried to sit it on my desk, and it didn't really work out real well. You can see that the cord sticks out of the bottom. So clearly it needed to be taller. I look for excuses to make stuff like this. You know what? Maybe we can just use this as inspiration. So I didn't just make one, I made two. So here is the Fallout version that's very similar to the original, but you'll notice that there is extra gear details, like a lot more detail. It's also got a much thicker base, and you can put little rubber sticky feet on them. This is another variant where it's more kind of like traditional Vault-Tec vault door inspired, where you've got the 111 piece in the center of it. So we're going to jump into Fusion 360, give you a brief overview of how these models were made. We're going to print them out. We're going to paint them. Going to do a little bit of dry brushing, a little bit of weathering to really give it that wasteland look. And as always, these files are free, linked in the description below. Let's get into it. Here we are in Fusion 360. Just going to do a brief overview of how the 3D models are constructed. If I go over here and I grab a hold of the Vault, let's just call it like the Vault coin, and I remove it, there's a little notch that's been extruded in the gear. And this is to help alignment when you 3D print your Vault 111 coin to align it onto the gear. Then if we look at the base has been completely redesigned from the original Thingiverse model. It's actually kind of stepped now, and the gear just glues itself onto the back and the bottom, fits snugly in there, kind of self-aligns. And then your phone would sit here. Cord routing is a little more precise, and also you can see here the recesses for some nice rubber feet. If we take a look at the logo plate, that is also a separate component. I can move it around because of that, and actually that is also true for the gear. Little tip in Fusion 360, if you do get into the habit of building your models with components, it's a lot easier to manipulate them in this way, where you can kind of move them around on the canvas, and then to put them back where they were in the upper right corner here where my cursor is, under position, revert position. So I'm going to turn off the Vault 111 gear, and we're going to turn on the Fallout variant. Okay, so this one kind of similarly, the Fallout logo plate itself is separate. The back has got a recessed cavity, allowing you to easily align it and glue it in place. This is advantageous because it's easier to paint these separately, and if you want to use multi-material printing, it makes it really quick and easy to just do some layer changes or color changes on layer heights. And let's take a look at that. And here I've got there's two files that you'll find on printables. Again, the link is in the description below. There's two 3MFs. One is just a pre-sliced version, I guess you could say, of the model, which is what this is. Everything is already set up for you. If you're not familiar with what a 3MF is a file that contains all of the models, and they're already pre-sliced for you. Sorry, that was my dog. She's having a little bit of snoozy dreams here. The other version is a pre-sliced 3MF that is assuming you're not going to paint it. And this one already has a lot of the slicing done for you for the color changes. So you can see here this Fallout logo uses 3 different colors, a silver, then it changes to black, and then finally white. Now, if you wanted the inside of the bolt to be yellow, that might require a little bit of hand painting, if you will, but this one is intended to be minimal paint effort. If we go over here and we look at the Vault-Tec plate that goes on the base, again, we got a 3-color layer change here. So these models were designed so that you could approach it in one of two ways. You could either hand paint them using, the basic sliced model here, or you could just print them out and do some color changes on layer heights. All right, let's print these out and let's start having some fun painting. Here are the two sets. They were printed in two different materials. The black is PLA carbon fiber and the cream color is Overture matte PLA. Ironically, the Overture PLA printed much cleaner. All the parts fit together great, good amount of tolerances to easily put them in place and glue them together. So let's start doing some painting. I'm just going to lay down a couple layers of gray primer filler. Alright, brought out the airbrush and gonna lay down some Citadel, I think it's pronounced Macragay, or I don't even know, blue airbrush paint. Another good company is Vallejo airbrush paints, and even better is Golden Acrylics. So find yourself a blue that you feel is fit and start laying down some coats. I am purposely gonna start doing this in a way that is actually kind of uneven. You'll notice as I start going around here, I am not doing your traditional 50% overlap, wiping side to side. I'm doing kind of a more random motion and spraying from different angles and whatnot because I don't want this to look absolutely perfect. I want there to be some variance in the paint. I was always intimidated by airbrushes. It took me a while to get one, but after having one and starting to learn how to use it and just make sure I keep it decently clean, they're really awesome little devices. And for models like this, being able to use a myriad of colors and not have to worry about the particles in the air the way that you would with spray paints is just really awesome. I kind of skipped a step. That's all right. We probably should have just glued the faceplate on sooner, but no big deal. I purposely left the face area here unpainted so that the super glue would bond a little bit better. So now I'm just going to put down some CA glue, use a little bit of accelerant on the back of the logo plate, and attach it to the front. Now back to the painting, just going to make sure I get a good coat of the blue on the faceplate, ensuring that I get it from all the different angles so that it's fully filled in all the little crevices. Next up, we need to coat the gears. I'm going to use some Golden Acrylics Carbon Black and Metallic Silver. I'm kind of lazy, or call me efficient, I don't know which, but I like to mix up my paints inside of the airbrush bowl. It's also a lot easier to clean, so I've got a little mixture here. Gonna test it out and see if I like it. If not, gonna add some more silver or black as I need. And now, in no particular precise fashion, I'm just gonna start coating the entire gear with this metallic gray. We're going to grab some slate gray as we start on my favorite part, which is dry brushing. I have found makeup brushes to work really, really good for this. If you've watched my other tutorials, you'll notice I use this technique a ton. The concept is to get some paint on your brush and then wipe almost all of it off on a cloth or a paper towel, as I'm doing here. The idea is to hit the high areas or the edges to really pop out some of the detail. You can already begin to see a lot of the edge definition coming through. This is why this is such a fun part. I'm just going to continue to go around the gear, and I'm using a couple different brushes depending on what areas I want to get more detail in, and just using the same method of just swiping the brush across the edges, getting it over some of the little bolts and some of the rivets to really bring out all the detail. That's going to do it for the gears. Next up, using the same dry brushing technique, using sky blue, I'm going to go around and dry brush the entire base. I wanted to try out some paint pens I recently got, but I quickly learned the results are not great. They're very liquidy and it's hard to get good coverage. I even tried laying down white first, then the yellow, and still the results were poor. Grabbed some sun yellow acrylic and decided to go over the whole thing again with a paintbrush. If I was to do this over, I would have just started with this and done a couple layers. Applying a varnish to the gears because the water mixable oils we're going to be using can eat away at the acrylic paint. Using yellow ochre, black, burnt sienna, and even some raw umber, I start weathering the gear by applying it generously and wiping away all the raised up surfaces. Take some creative freedom using the colors to get whatever results you like. Last, and probably the most tedious, we gotta paint the fallout sign. I'm using acrylic black and a fine tip brush to get all the faces. Then I'm grabbing the white paint pen, and this actually worked great, where I just used it to do the pinstriping. I did do 2 layers, but it came out pretty good. Now let's start assembling these. We're just going to use some super glue and some accelerant to start attaching the pieces together. Be aware that accelerator, if you get it on your fingers, it can affect the paint, so be careful. Thank you so much for watching, and with that, we're going to call this done.